Hello and welcome to the Slateman Triathlon, powered by Suunto, an event that is designed to take advantage of everything that Wales's Snowdonia National Park has to offer. With a long tradition of mining, this area now attracts thousands of thrill seekers, some getting their adrenaline rush going up, and others going down. The longest zip wire in Europe will push them up to speeds between 85 and 105 miles an hour as they hurtle over the Penrhyn quarry in Bethesda, once the world's largest slate mine. Today is more about endurance than adrenaline as 1,200 triathletes descend on Llanberis, the adventure sports capital of Wales. This is the first in a series of 3 races, and the overall winner of the series wins a trip to the Caribbean island of Nevis to compete in the Nevis Triathlon. But just to complete the Slateman Triathlon alone, they're going to need a huge amount of strength, mental and physical, to complete the course that Tim Lloyd has designed.
This is the first of a series of 3 here in North Wales. We have one in Gwynedd, which is the Slateman. We have one on Anglesey, which is called the Sandman. And we have one in Conwy Council, which is the Snowman Triathlon. Slateman Triathlon is the open water opener, if you like, for the year. The swim is in the lake here in Llanberis, Llynpadan, which is absolutely gorgeous. A little bit cold, you know, but it's nice. After the swim, the cyclists head out on their bikes. We take them over the Llanberis Pass, we take them down the Ogwen Valley, really iconic locations in Snowdonia. And then they come back in off their bikes, and, you know, possibly the most difficult part of the course certainly is the famous zigzags up the quarries in Llanberis here. Running to the top of the quarries, then running back down at the end, back to the finish line where, you know, everybody, without fail, will be absolutely exhausted at the finish.
And if that wasn't hard enough, this year they've added a time trial on the steepest part of the course, the Connecticut Quarryman Challenge. Last year, Jane Hansom finished second in the women's race to Rian Roxburgh, and that was only a week after completing the Mallorca 70.3. An improved bike ride and a good run could see her go one better this year. She's very competitive and she knows the course well.
The interesting bit in this race is the run up the Slateman quarry. And I understand that this year there's like a little time trial halfway up. So that'll be interesting. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to win the time trial. But, you know, hopefully I'll do my best in the overall race.
As an accomplished runner, Susie Richards could provide the main competition. The current Slateman champion is Stephen Skates. Last year he produced a solid swim, a very good bike, but a brilliant run to win in a time of 2:24:20. Will it be good enough to retain his title?
Concentrating on my open water swimming this year a little bit more, so hopefully my swim's going to be a bit better. But generally speaking, the same format, so we'll give it a go. It's probably just going to come down to how everybody feels on the day, and if they plan a tactic site right and execute it well, then there you go.
Ewan Brown has twice won the Snowman event and finished third in the Sandman in Anglesey last year. He's another brilliant runner, and he has every right to be confident of taking the top prize today.
You get some pros turn up, but then if they're not good on the hills, then it's anybody's game. So I don't think you're racing for second, no matter who turns up, because I think there's a few good fast guys here that are well renowned on the circuit. So I think it's all to play for.
19-year-old Rory Atkins is another potential winner who'll be racing in the British Super Series this year and the Europa Cup races. He's a good swim, bike athlete. What he'll do on the run, we'll have to wait and see.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So the 1,000-metre swim is underway, the equivalent of 40 lengths in a 25-metre pool. This is the main event of the weekend, a field packed with experience and plenty of talent in there as well. If you win here, you certainly have the potential to win elsewhere. Races don't come much tougher than this.
2, 1.
Other waves, plenty of options on the races this weekend. 2 days of racing, which is the first time that's happened. Sprint events, plenty of events with short swims if that's not your cup of tea, and plenty of spectators as well. Well, no surprise to see David Langston producing the best swim of the day. He was fastest in 2012, he was fastest last year, and he's going to be first out of the water this year as well. Under 15 minutes, he could well be over a minute clear of everyone else.
Here we are, give a round of applause. Here comes our first.
He finished 7th in the event last year. He's going to have to improve his running if he wants to do the same this year. Now, this is the chase group coming out of the water. They're roughly 55 seconds adrift of the leader, Langston. That was Ollie Simon just standing up early. And he's accompanied by Foster and Atkins, who'll be into T1 very shortly. Here they come. Steve Ferguson in that group as well. But no sign of Ewan Brown. No sign of last year's winner, Steve Skates. And away goes David Langston. Well, that's a good burst of power as he exits T1. But he's going to have to keep that going for the full 56 kilometres on the bike if he wants to stay ahead. Ollie Simon all the way up to the end of the bike stand as he wears bib number 2. Usually the first man out of the water in a triathlon, but not today. Also won the Sandman last year, so trying to add the Slateman title to that trophy. So Simon's going to be second away, chasing David Langston. And then a tight battle between Rory Atkins on the far side and Alex Foster in blue near the camera. And those two will be able to pace themselves. Well, it's very tight in the chase group. Steve Ferguson just joining the group of 4. Stephen Skates is now on his way out of T1. Last year he was 2.5 minutes off the pace at this stage. This year just 1:55. There goes Ewan Brown. He's 3 minutes adrift of the race leader and lots of work to do, but his weakest discipline is out of the way. Now here's the bike course, 51 kilometres in all, starting up the Llanberis Pass. That's the toughest part. Down towards Capel Curig when they turn down the Ogwyn Valley. This is spectacular scenery and very fast biking indeed. A left turn just before they hit Bethesda, and then they start to work their way back to Llyn Padan and Llanberis, where they'll go into T2 and prepare for the final run. David Langston out on his own at the moment, but already looking anxiously over his shoulder. He's got a lead of some 200 metres at the moment. Almost 1 minute quicker than everyone else on the swim. The third year in succession, he's been the quickest in the water. And here's the man leading the chase, Rory Atkins, who was third out of T1. He's into second place now, pushing a big gear, and he's got a decent cadence there as well. He's targeted this race as perfect preparation for the rest of the season.
I needed an Olympic race with an open water swim, and this just looked like such a tough event in such a great location, so I thought it would be a great one to do.
Langston already looks to be suffering on his way up Llanberis Pass. Rory Atkins very focused. He is gaining quickly. He was a minute behind Langston coming out of T1. And the chaser suddenly becomes the chased. A very different mindset now required for the youngster. And of course he needs to know exactly where he's going because he's got no one to follow. In the women's event, Susie Richards is well placed. The ex-Loughborough student, now a full-time teacher, which she says is all about crowd control. Well, she's not quite got control of this event so far. Mansfield led out of the water. She's got Natalie Seymour for company as well, and Jane Handsome less than a minute behind the leading women. So 4 women within a minute. That could be a very good race indeed. There goes Natalie Seymour, 3:33. And back in the men's race, Ollie Simon and Alex Foster very tightly matched as they head towards Penapast. And that's exactly where all those walking up Snowdon will park their cars today. This is Ewan Brown, who started the bike ride 2 minutes down on the current leader, Rory Atkins.
How far back?
2 minutes.
Well, no gain so far for Ewan Brown. He's going to have to work hard on the downhill section. Ollie Simon and Alex Foster are on their way towards Capel Curig. This is a very fast stretch of road, but gains can still be made. Down on the tri-bars, speeds of 50, 60, 70 kilometres an hour. And they're all chasing this man, Rory Atkins, who's been on his own for the last 10, 11 kilometres. Can he hold on to become the Slateman for 2014? Welcome back to the Slateman Triathlon, powered by Suunto. The athletes are halfway through the bike ride that started in Llanberis. A 1,000-metre swim to start the race off, and now all the hard work being done. In the women's race, Susie Richards pushing very, very hard and slowly pulling away from Natalie Seymour, who was just behind her coming out of the water. And Jane Handsome, one of the favourites, finding herself in third place. She was the runner-up last year. And in the men's event, Rory Atkins has had the lead since the start of the climb up Llanberis Pass. But chasing him, we have Ollie Simon, Alex Foster is there as well, and Stephen Skates, the defending champion, who came out of the water 2 minutes behind. He's flying on his bike and closing on the group in front. Well, Ollie Simon's got a problem. He must have slipped the chain. Now, that won't take too long to repair, but he's going to lose 2 places at least. And that means that Alex Foster is now in second place, but he's only going to stay there for a matter of seconds because Steve Skates is on a mission to defend the title he won last year. Great riding from Skates, but he will be very, very aware that Ewan Brown is behind him. And here he is, the number 5. Ewan Brown, even faster than Skates. He's pushing an incredible cadence at the moment.
Gonna keep it going, eh?
Gained very little time on the uphill, but he's certainly travelling fastest on the downhill. 1117, that's Alex Foster, just watching Skates disappear in front of him, and he's about to see Ewan Brown go the same way. Well, there you see the contrast. Now, there aren't many who could turn their legs over that fast. Best to keep the hands on the handlebars at that sort of speed. Skates will be unaware that Brown is closing down on him, and I think he's going to get a little bit of surprise. My goodness, Ewan Brown is pushing very hard.
Doesn't matter who's out ahead, you can usually reel something in, and the little carrot of them out there gives you enough to step it up a gear when you don't think you've got it.
Well, he's certainly got it at the moment, and he has to be closing on Rory Atkins. Here is Atkins. He's had a lonely ride so far, and this has been very, very good training for him. The masses are still on the climb up Llanberis Pass. Now, I know they're advised to take the odd energy bar, but there's no need to take quite that much kit, and she's not the only one struggling.
Oh gosh, this is hard. Nearly there, come on.
Well, they'll all be happy that the hard climbing comes early on in this race.
Oh, it's all downhill from here anyway.
Rory Atkins, a long way ahead. The man from Twickenham, who's on his gap year to focus on triathlon training. He won the Thames Turbo recently, so he's on very good form, and he comes into T2 in the lead. Now, what will the margin be? Estimated at just under a minute ahead of Ewan Brown. Here is Brown. My goodness, he's had a good bike ride. Took his time in the early stages and then flew down the Ogwen Valley. He's got to within 49 seconds of the race leader. And he has to be thinking in terms of winning because he knows that his real strength is the running. Rory Atkins holds on to the lead as he exits T2. And as he leaves, last year's champion Stephen Skates comes in. And Skates can run a bit as well. He'll be glad to see that Ewan Brown is still in transition. Not for long, though. And Ewan Brown straight into the running. Let's have a look at the run course. 11 kilometres in all. They go along Llanberis, which will give them just a bit of chance to get their breather before they go into the zigzags up the Slate Quarry and then towards Parc Padan and then back through the park for the second time before they head into the transition. And there's a little sting in the tail on the run, so they have to save something for the later stages. Well, Rory Atkins, he lost 20 seconds to Ewan Brown in transition, and it's not taken Ewan Brown long to close down the next 27. He's looking very smooth, very relaxed, and I don't think he'll hang on the shoulder of Atkins for long. No, straight past. Well, there's a contrast in the facial expression as much as anything else. Take nothing away from Rory Atkins. He's had a very good ride and he didn't have any help. Brown just checking to see how Atkins is getting on. I think he'll be glad to see he's dropped a few metres back. And now he has a look for Skates, but there's no sign of Stephen Skates. And a lot of that's due to the fact that Ewan Brown had such a good transition too. Very, very swift indeed. He gained 20 seconds for no extra effort. Awaiting the arrival of the leading woman. Here she is, Susie Richards, coming into T2. And by our reckoning, she is still a minute clear of Nat Seymour. She's a good runner. That's where she started her career. And the tougher the race, the more she enjoys it. Away she goes, 11 kilometres to run. Natalie Seymour, second in the women's race into T2. She'll be glad that she's held off Jane Hansom. Meanwhile, Ewan Brown, the new race leader. And there's Stephen Skates, who's back in third place, but not for long, because surely he's going to go past Rory Atkins. Atkins still moving well, but Stephen Skates is a deceptively good climber. A little shuffle of a step. Through he goes. No energy for a word, but the look says it all. Ewan Brown approaching the timing mat for the end of the Connecticut Quarryman Challenge, which also signifies the end of the big climb. It's time to lengthen the stride for Ewan Brown, and what the rest of the field would give to be in his position. They have that brutal ascent still to come. There'll be a lot of sweat, a bit of blood, and no doubt a few tears. But if they're hurting, maybe they should spare a thought for the miners who used to walk these roads every single day they went to work. Well, it's a fantastic effort. It's a wonder that some of them can still smile. But when they reach the summit and they see the views, they will know that the bulk of the hard work has been done. Well, Ewan Brown into Park Padan, and he's still flowing nicely. He surely is heading for victory here in Llanberis. And behind Brown, the rest of the field are struggling. Alex Foster is hurting. Gary Hughes still going well, but the fatigue is showing. And David Langston, who is the fastest on the swim, still in the top 10, but like most fish, he's not so happy out of the water. The fans sense the arrival of the day's winner, and here comes Ewan Brown round the final corner. He adds the Slateman title to the 2 Snowman titles he's already won, and if he wins the Sandman later this year, surely he'll become a Superman. What a fantastic effort from Ewan Brown. And Stephen Skates, another good effort, but he can't retain the title he won last year. Ewan Brown just too strong.
Oh, that was one of those days where sort of time just, like your own personal time just stands still, and you just, it hurts, but it doesn't really matter. You just keep going, you get in your own little world, and it all just comes together, and you just go for it.
I kind of redeemed it slightly on the run. Didn't feel quite as strong as last year, but overall it's the same time, and with the headwind it must have been a better race, I suppose. But Ewan Brown, he's a good competitor, he's a quick guy, really good runner. Can't really complain with second place.
Ewan Brown's time, 2 hours, 21:48, a new course record here for the Slateman, and he takes 3 minutes out of Stephen Skates. Rory Atkins, led for so long, finishes third today.
I've done some pretty tough races in the past, I'd say, but I mean, in terms of like just strength and hills, this is by far the hardest I've ever done.
Every single athlete getting a good reception here in Llanberis. Susie Richards into the finish, and she looks delighted to have taken the women's title. It was a good fight, second out of the water, but she soon had the lead and never looked back. Natalie Seymour, She dug and she dug and she dug, but she just couldn't close down on Susie Richards.
I knew I might be in with a shout, but it's completely different racing to what I've ever done before. So usually kind of the shorter distance. So I thought it's going to be tough, but I'm a tough athlete. This sort of stuff suits me.
It certainly does. Jane Hansom's done well as well. She finishes third overall and first in her age group. So Susie Richards with a time 2:44.23 to take the title for this year. And Natalie Seymour just 1 minute, 11 seconds off the pace.
There were a couple of points round where I was thinking, I can't keep going. I felt like my quads were cramping. But, people out on the course, everyone was just willing each other on. There's so much respect among the competitors because if you can get out of that climb and you can get through that run, it's just amazing. People getting themselves round. It's really great.
Well, she certainly enjoyed the day out. And there are many who will do once they get to the finish.
A scale of 1 to 10. Pain, 12. Oh, I think I'd rather have a plague.
Can't be that bad.
This is harder than I've ever done. My legs are dying.
Come on, legs.
I did an ultra marathon 4 weeks ago. This is harder. Work that one out. It's bloody Wales for you. Come from Essex. There's nothing like that there. Ridiculous. How's it been? Terrible.
And finally, the finish comes into sight. It truly is all downhill from here. And there's enough left for a sprint finish for a few of the competitors. And every single one of them deserves to have a big smile.
I guess that's about 1,000 foot ascent and I was just absolutely exhausted, but enjoyed every minute.
And that run is just something else. It's the toughest run I've ever done, but it's so exhilarating.
And everyone's buzzing, cheering. It's absolutely fantastic. And then got changed, went for the run and never experienced cramp. Whoever invented cramp, okay, you're sacked.
Nearly there.
People just bringing you along as you get tired, and the camaraderie. Triathlon's the best sport in the world. Everybody helps each other. It's just fantastic.
The sprint event every bit as popular as the main event, this year won by Steve Stoneman, becoming the sprint Slateman.
It's my first win, and of course I'm 45, so that's even better. Absolutely fantastic event.
Some friends of mine had raced last year and they said to come and try this race, and I'm so glad that I came. It's a brilliant course.
So the two winners for the weekend, Susie Richards getting her first victory, Ewan Brown getting a course record as he adds the Slateman to his Snowman titles. And what a weekend it's been. Over 1,200 athletes involved in the race, thousands upon thousands of spectators, and all blessed with some fantastic Welsh weather. We'll see you next year.